Alright, e-commerce people, it's the dead middle of January, and therefore the dead middle of your slowdown post-holiday. So this week we need to make sure we're still building that momentum back. Last week we talked a lot about how to get your momentum back on the Facebook platform. Now let's do the same thing for Amazon. There's still a lot of revenue you can get with these platforms if you're playing your cards right. We're getting your momentum back, and that's all ahead on this week's game plan. Welcome once again to this week's Game Plan, a weekly series where we take you through the details you need to scale your e-commerce business channel by channel, week over week. It's really important to make sure you're not leaving any revenue on the table throughout January, so one more place you need to really revitalize is your Amazon strategy. If you've been on Amazon before, then you're pretty well set, but there are a few things you need to set up in January to make sure that you are getting all the revenue you can off Amazon platform. So let's go ahead and dive into that with David Yu, head of Amazon marketing here at MuteSix.
A lot of people might think Amazon's actually like a lower funnel initiative. So you can definitely see like a lot of people come into Amazon. They're definitely there with the intent to purchase. So that's definitely something to kind of think about, especially with Amazon. You want to make sure that you're acquiring new customers on the platform. So you're considering like the top funnel, but also at the same time that you're thinking about retention as well. So you're kind of launching your like retargeting campaigns. So just want to make sure that you're kind of encompassing the whole marketing strategy. If you're in, like health foods, you definitely want to acquire new customers at this time. There's a lot of sort of people kind of thinking about the new year, new you kind of thing. They're definitely looking for more like health products, more health apparel. They're going to the gyms more. So you want to make sure that you're getting top visibility for all of this seasonality. So you want to make sure that you're kind of bidding on a lot of the priority keywords, but also at the same time really kind of doing that keyword research and encompassing a lot of the keywords so you can see like what's working for you and what's not. A lot of times you may want to kind of go for like a lot of the niche keywords. You may want to go for a lot of like the longer tail keywords, making sure that you kind of encompass some of those keywords within your products. So the Amazon's algorithm actually says you're a relevant product. So you can definitely go that route. You want to see like how much visibility or how much volume there is for that. Just going after like the longer tail keywords, that's not always the right approach, but at the same time, like it may prove fruitful as long as you're kind of have a balance. You have some like keywords with like some volume, but also at the same time, you're kind of focusing on those as well.
For the past 2 weeks, what I've been talking to you about is mostly restarting the basics, restarting your basic campaign structure in Facebook and Google. But what we really need to do, and you need to really make sure that you're doing this, is getting yourself set for the year entirely. And so one thing I want you to think about is your creative strategy overall. Not necessarily the production of creative, we'll dive into that next week, but the strategy you want to use this year specifically. To help you think about that, we're going to talk to Moody Nashawati, the Chief Strategy Officer here at MuteSix.
More than ever, stories matter. Stories are a big part of the equation for all channels. Cutting creative specifically for story is starting to be more of a play and more of a priority than cutting for feed. So when you're thinking about cutting for feed and cutting for stories, they're different. Understand how they work differently. I mean, stories typically you're playing. You can have more of an interaction with people. You can play with sound. You can play with interactions, polls, all sorts of things within the story format to make it look organic, but also have it perform. The other thing we're seeing a lot with creative as we shift focus in 2020 is a more organic, more influencer involvement, whether that's using their pages, using their likeness to promote from their pages, but also getting them into the creative, into the forefront of it. And again, we've seen this, but it's I think more important than ever that we're seeing a difference between production value, between organic content and things that look more UGC, organic, authentic in nature. Actually like a post somebody would interact with is something that has more appeal than the production level style shoots. As long as it's organic and feeling to the platform, that is how you sort of game the system. So play with the medium, play with the story format, play with the swipe ups, play with the ability to tap and create polls and really interact with a lot of the feature sets. I'd say even build out your creative, look what it looks like in the feed but also in the story, and then see if you can use the actual story feature to create a little bit more. Use the stickers, use the feature sets there to create things that are even more compelling. Figure out how your brand already plays in the story and what does well, and figure out how to bring that into ads, add value, ask for the sale, and really close out the interaction from a creative way to drive the response. So when you're talking about formulating a strategy, when you first have insights, you want to basically test everything, right? So that's for us it's a third. So it's static banners, it's shorter video formats, and it's longer video formats, and you'll find wins in each, and that'll create the strategy or how you move forward in terms of taking optimizations and going on and creating the additional creative that's going to get you to scale. The thing that maybe people don't focus on enough is what is that stop rate. How many people are actually interacting in the first 3 seconds with your piece of creative, right? So if you take interactions in your video views of 3 seconds or longer, divide them by your impressions, you'll get an actual ratio, which we call the thumb stop rate ratio. And that's an important metric that isn't available unless you actually build out spreadsheets and do actually export the data and look at how is your creative stopping people in the feed before having them interact with the rest of your content. So take that into mind as well as you're starting to look into the data of how everything's performing.
And that's the main thing I want you to think about this week. Thinking about where your audience actually is and finding ways to get in front of them. It's not necessarily just blanketing every channel with ads, it's finding smart, well thought out creative that builds that genuine connection with your audience. It's a tough line to walk, but it's something you need to be thinking about all this month before the momentum really starts ramping up into the next couple of weeks and you get into sort of the scrum of the whole year. As always, stick to your plan, and that's been this week's game plan. Thanks for sticking around for our end screen here. Please, as always, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the YouTube things. Make sure you also check us out at MuteSix.com/live and get on our email list so we can hit you up with other kinds of content. Maybe check out our podcast as well. And as always, we like to leave you with peace, love, and ROI.